Well, hey, Myo family, and welcome to this episode of the Myo Minute. I'm somewhere new. I like to call this my office. Many of you guys know this, but I am based out of Colorado. It is a beautiful day, so if you're watching this in real time, it's springtime. So I was thinking about this topic, and I just decided to sit down out here and record the episode. So I'm talking about what is an appropriate age to have a frenectomy done. So before I do that, for those of you who do not know me, my name is Carmen Woodland. I'm an oral facial myofunctional therapist. I am the CEO of Impact Myofunctional Therapy, and we see clients all around the world to bring this important therapy to everybody. So getting back to an age appropriate time frame to do a frenectomy. So ideally, in an ideal world, a tongue tie would be identified and fixed in an infant immediately so that the infant can breastfeed, so that mom's milk supply is not damaged. But that doesn't always happen. So oftentimes, releases are done, or frenectomy, so that's another word for, or when I say release, I also mean frenectomy. It is often done sometimes as soon as it's discovered. So that could be a kiddo that's 18 months old. It can be in a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old. So I'm forever fighting against practitioners sometimes, the people who do the releases, and then also trying to educate parents. So again, it's ideal if we can get a frenectomy done on a baby as soon as they're born, as soon as it's identified, so that we can have correct development of the face, we can have correct development of the maxilla and the mandible, the airway, correct swallowing, speech, tongue posture, oral rest posture, all of that stuff. So beyond that, if a tongue tie is not identified and a frenectomy is not done when a child is when it's a breastfeeding issue, then it really should wait until the child is old enough to comprehend, cooperate, and comply with therapy. So this is what really bamboozles people, because sometimes it'll be identified and the practitioner, the doctor will say, okay, we can go ahead and do it. But my friend, I can tell you with 100% certainty that unless it's an extreme tied to the tip tongue tie, that it's not going to be successful. And I know this after working with thousands of clients, after leading them through this process. If myofunctional therapy cannot adequately be done before and after the release, the success of it just really, it's just not going to be successful. So an appropriate age to have a release done, like I said, is when the kiddo is old enough to comprehend, comply, and cooperate. They have to have volitional control of their muscles. So that means voluntary control. So a 2-year-old can't do that. And nor can a stroke victim, really, if we're just talking about the muscle control. So if you have a kiddo who is tongue-tied, it's more important that you wait until they're able to do it correctly. I did an exam on a little boy this week who's 6, and mom says absolutely there is 0% chance that he's going to be compliant with taking care of the wound in the mouth, doing the post-operative wound care instructions, and moving the muscle when it hurts. So in this case, it makes no sense for us to even attempt it, because if you force the issue, you can't get your fingers in a kid's mouth. Absolutely, it's not going to work. So you can't force it. And what happens is then it heals down, then there's more scar tissue, and then perhaps there also could be an oral aversion, or there can be some traumatic event that is triggered the next time your kiddo needs to go to the dentist. So when I was in hygiene, there were 50-year-olds that would still cry when I would try and get them out of the waiting room, and that's because they had some traumatic event when they were young and they just no longer wanted to go to the dentist. Okay, so we do not want that. This is an extreme example, but I have consulted on cases where a child has a feeding tube because something happened at the dental office. Now, I'm not saying that that was a tongue tie issue, but something at the dental office triggered a traumatic event, big or small, and that kiddo didn't want to, it created an oral aversion, and the kiddo didn't want to put food in the mouth. So we don't want that. So I would rather be honest and upfront and step on some toes and frustrate some parents than to allow them to put their kiddo through something that isn't going to be successful. We also don't want to just keep doing releases just for the heck of it, because every time one is done, more scar tissue is created, and eventually you can end up worse than when you started. So I hope that just kind of, I hope that helps guide you. If you have a question about whether your child should have a release, the first place to start is with an exam, because we're going to look at all things. Airway trumps everything. And so there's times where I have kiddos that, yes, they have a tongue tie, but they've got terrible behavior issues. They're wetting the bed, they're grinding, they've got airway issues, they've got sleep apnea, red flags all over the place. Those kiddos need to start with an airway focused orthodontist, not a tongue tie. So it's really important that we figure out who needs to be on first, who needs to be on second, and who needs to be on third. So I'm going to land this plane and get back to my hike. I hope that is helpful. Over the next couple episodes, I will be talking about frenectomies, as that's the topic of the flavor du jour. So stay tuned. Get your exam scheduled. Our books are really full. At some point, we do stop accepting new clients. So thank you for following me. Share this if you know somebody who needs to hear this. And I will be back next time with another hot topic. Bye for now.